That's definitely an Audi.
Oh, Lord.
I didn't even say anything.
From the
Go
top.
ahead. Yeah.
From the top. All right. Welcome to another episode of Bourbon and Data Breaches, where we cover 5 of the most interesting data breaches from this last week and one of our favorite bourbons. I'm Steve.
Divya.
I'm Matt.
And Paul.
Great. Well, Divya, has anything happened this week?
Of course, a lot of chaos this week, guys. So let's go ahead and jump right into it, starting off hot from the press about MGM Resorts. And then I'm going to kind of like mix it up with the Caesars Palace because they kind of happen at the same time. But MGM Resorts was recently hacked. They got back into operation after hacks like 10 days later. And apparently, ALPHV BlackCat took credit for the hack, according to malware tracker VX Underground. It wasn't just the Las Vegas casinos that got hit. It was actually MGM's Borgata Hotel in Atlantic City and MGM Grand Detroit Casino that were affected as well. So pretty much like most of their operations in the United States. What do you guys have to say about this story?
Well, this is definitely a spicy story. I think this was felt by everyone because not only did MGM have a ransomware event, but it shut down operations. People couldn't check into rooms. You saw long lines at check-ins.
Slot machines were down.
Yep. So this was a pretty major outage, which means lost revenue in addition to the ransom. ALPHV did take credit for it directly. And they had some pretty interesting things to see or pretty interesting things to say about this breach. Did you read what ALPHV posted?
I know there was controversy about they thought it was like some teenagers in Russia originally, and ALPHV was not happy that they somehow got credit, but maybe that's not what you're referring to, Steve.
So ALPHV or ALPHV, I think it's ALPHV. So ALPHV, they posted on their darknet site that they got access to MGM's Okta servers, and then they blamed MGM for like shutting everything down. They basically tried to make it seem like MGM made it worse by their actions. But again, like it's a ransomware gang. What do you expect them to say? So yeah, this was a major outage. It looked like a lot of compromise, and then a central authentication server, which of course means it wasn't just Vegas, it was worldwide.
So just to add on to that, all of this came to light and this attack happened right after BlackCat. And BlackCat is probably one of the biggest cybersecurity conferences, right? So the timing is just really interesting. And, some people, like I was there at BlackCat, you were there at BlackCat, and you've been there 10 years. So has this magnitude of attack happened in the past?
We've seen hackers playing games or hacking or disrupting Vegas hotels before, so that's nothing new. There's notoriously been a lot of carding and ATM hacking, things like that during BlackCat, DEF CON. But this magnitude of an attack, so the timing was suspicious, right? Because we had a lot of security conferences in Vegas, and then we had pretty much all the hotels in Vegas experience some security incidents. Although it could have just been happenstance, right? If they were taking over Okta servers, they could have done that from anywhere. But yeah, it's interesting. It's suspicious, and certainly even more suspicious that both Caesars and MGM suffered events at the same time.
The other thing, I think this one involves a lot of social engineering, right? Weren't they actually calling in to reset passwords of accounts, and that's how they originally got into the Okta servers?
Yeah, you do wonder how much happens boots on the ground versus remotely. And could have all happened remotely, could have been calling in. But operational knowledge of what's happening, boots on the ground, could have a major effect. And there are a lot of hackers in Vegas. So I think we'll eventually see what did it for MGM. And what did it for the next related story.
Exactly. So kind of like a very natural segue here. We're going to talk about Caesar's Palace, and Caesar's Palace Entertainment pays $15 million in ransom to cyber hackers after the breach. I believe the ransom started at 30 mil and they negotiated it down to 15. And they're just it's a lot of finger pointing, and they're saying that like Caesar's leaders confirmed that they paid a multi-million ransom after the hackers acquired a significant number of their customers' driver licenses and social security numbers. My first question is, why is Caesar's Palace asking for social security numbers when people are booking hotel rooms?
Well, so you got to think you have high net worth individuals at high stakes tables. The more you bet, the more they're going to want proof and verification that you are who you are. So I think it's probably a tax issue, right? If you engage in serious betting, they're going to want your social security number so they can report it to the IRS. So I think there's a few things from this story. One is 15 million is nothing to Caesars. That they probably suffered more from reputational damage and from outages than they did from the $15 million payment. And then it goes to show that anyone you give your data to, you have to really be careful about that. It would be great if there is a way for Caesars to not require social security numbers, but I bet it is a tax problem. Same thing with driver's licenses. I wouldn't be surprised if they had scans of passports for foreign nationals. That they're effectively entertainment, but they're also a financial institution, right? Because they deal with a lot of finance. And so that's why they're such a tempting target.
The difference between this and the MGM one is Caesars got back up and running much faster, and that's because they paid the ransom and MGM refused. Is that right?
Well, yeah, we don't know what happened with MGM. According to ALPHV, like everything could have been much better if MGM didn't take all their servers offline. There certainly was a big outage with Caesars. Maybe they agreed to pay the ransom quickly. Who knows? But yeah, this can show that the threat of ransomware is not just reputation, but the threat of ransomware is a serious outage. And that's likely what caused Caesars to pay so quickly.
My thoughts on MGM are, and I've been working on it's interesting I'm putting my mind in the view of a cyber insurance company who's covering them. And so it's really interesting to look at the pattern of what happened. And plus, we've been given a little bit of a playbook from the ALPHV guys, writing up their techniques. So it's incredible when you start looking at the leaked records, the Okta logins, and all these things with repeating characters, with the dopiest plain text passwords. I mean, you just can't even believe this stuff.
Do you have an example?
And so, at the risk of oversimplifying, but I think oversimplifying is good sometimes. I mean, people are just such boneheads, and they just do the same things over and over and over. And it's not giant pernicious things. It's just stupid reuse of passwords over and over and over and over. It's just, God, what is the matter with these people? So that's a quick reaction.
Yeah, that's helpful on MGM. And what are your thoughts on Caesars, where they paid the $15 million ransom?
Oh, I think that's like, come ransom me again soon, part of it.
That's a low amount for Caesars.
Yeah, so that's the other thing. So I think the operations produce between 15 and 20 million a day in cash, or maybe that's just the slots. So if MGM's saying they're out for 10 days, how long was Caesars out? So they have to be out 50 or 70 million bucks.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
I think a day of outage costs way more than whatever ransom they pay.
much.
So I have a question for you guys. I know that, there's laws that surround the fact that you're not supposed to pay ransom to these criminals, isn't there? Like, are they kind of soft on that?
I feel like the federal government says a lot of things and then they immediately walk it back. So like the federal government was like, don't pay ransoms unless you have to. And then it's like, okay,
Yeah,
thanks.
Okay.
unless you're losing 50 million a day. To me, the other thing this underlines is this. For years in our last company, we all talk about, protect your data, your vendors need to protect your data. You don't want to get your data stolen. Well, how about just shutting down your operation so you stop making money?
Yeah.
I mean, I think that's more immediate in a way.
These casinos are interesting businesses because they are arguably entertainment companies. They're
Mhm.
also hotels, so they're hospitality, and then they're banks, right?
Yeah.
You
And
bet they are.
and it's fascinating because like hotels, they get hit all the time, and everyone's like, what you gonna do? And then entertainment, they get hit all the time, and it's like, what you gonna do? And then banks hit, and everyone freaks out. And so we're seeing with Caesars that they had social security numbers, they had driver's licenses, they probably
Right.
had 4 national passports because
Huh.
they have to report to the IRS.
That's right. From all the loyalty program records. Yeah. Like 60 million sets or something.
Yep. So, it is suspicious though how both MGM and Caesars, basically all of Vegas, got hit with ransomware right after the security conferences. And with that, I think it's time for a bourbon break.
There you go.
Today's
Bring
bourbon
out the burb.
is not a bourbon, and I will not apologize for bringing a non-bourbon onto this. We've been doing this for, I want to say 4 years, maybe 3 years as a color commentary show. And we've done a lot of bourbons, and today we're going to do a whiskey, and you're welcome. So today we have Suntory World Whiskey AO. So this is a new whiskey. It's a new offering from Suntory. Divya, what do you know about this whiskey?
All right. So this is also the first time I'm going live on the show and having a sip myself. But Suntory, it's a mix of Irish Scotch, and they're calling this whiskey as taste the world's 5 most celebrated whiskey regions: Ireland, Scotland, America, Canada, and Japan. The world's most prestigious whiskey regions, each with their own unique history and climate that reveal their personality traits through our remarkable AO, which I think is pronounced O. Anyway, it's a blend, and going to Total Wine, they don't have it in stock at Mueller, Texas, so bad job on you, Mueller, Austin. But it's running for $65.99, $66. The reviews are smooth blend, good for cocktails or neat. Buy it when you travel at Narita, duty free. Thanks for the tip, Denver whiskey. And somebody says it's one of the best Japanese blends.
So real quick, and then I want to throw it over to Connor. I'm a fan of Suntory. Suntory is great. Their offerings are always reliable. We have Suntory Toki, Suntory Cheetah, which you can't even get in the US. You got to get it duty free international. And then this is a blend, and so that they own a lot of different distilleries, and you may not even know it. What are your thoughts so far, Connor?
I actually like this a lot. So obviously, we usually are doing bourbon. This is not a bourbon. It's a whiskey. And as we know, I don't have very good judge of the different notes on the palate, but I like it. I mean, if I had to give a number ranking, I'd give it a 7.82 out of 10. So it's solid. And
On the nose, you get the peatiness. There's not too much complexity on the nose. It just smells like a peaty whiskey. You taste it. It is peat forward, or it's a little bit more aggressive on the peatiness. But what I like about it is it's not Scotch. It's not like all peats all the time.
Right.
It's like there's some peatiness there, but then there's some notes of some semi-sweet whiskey. And it is a lingering finish. So like it stays with you. Like I still taste it.
Yeah.
Even like and it's mostly sort of a semi-sweet peatiness to it. So you get a little bit of smokiness. It's not an abrasive smokiness. It's pretty mild. All said and done. So I like this one. I don't love this one. I got it because it was Suntory and I like Suntory. It's not worth the money, but as a novelty, it's nice, right? Like if you're gonna spend money on a novelty blend, then this is a good one. I'd recommend it. If you can get it, I'd try it. Definitely worth a try. But I probably won't buy another bottle anytime soon.
I want to add one thing here. So I'm a sucker for packaging. So I think this box is nice that it came in, which, I mean, when you're talking about liquor in boxes, it's a ploy, I get it, but it's still a nice box. And then I like this chamfer on the back end of the bottle. So it's not a full square. So overall, I was impressed. I don't like twist tops. Makes it feel cheap, but that's just me. I know that's not the case. I know there's a lot of nice whiskeys that have a twist top, but just a little review on the packaging from me to add in some more color since I can't taste the notes.
Yeah,
It's the corner shelf of bourbon.
it's a pretty bottle. They have Suntory World Whiskey embellished on it. I don't know.
It's not embellished. I don't know the right word, but it's not embossed, engraved. It's not engraved.
It's engraved.
It's not engraved. It's extruding. It's not intruding. Extruding.
It's an Audi, not an innie.
It's an so and it's just it's like
really, Paul, did you just say that?
Pretty like drawing of AO and like it's well done and I feel like they're probably quite happy with this. I'm sure a lot of people will buy it, especially since they just took 5 of their whiskeys and blended them to make something new.
Shelf space.
So
well, who doesn't like an Audi?
Or
any.
For a good time, make it a Suntory time.
I like Audis, like AUDI.
Exactly.
That's been the bourbon break.
All right, we're moving
There's
on.
a lot of editing to be had, Divya.
Uh-oh.
I've had enough. All right. Okay, moving on to story number 3, guys. So this is kind of interesting. First of all, I didn't realize that a court of this nature existed, but it's breached the international criminal court system last week. And they disclosed a cyber attack on Tuesday after discovering that all their systems had been breached, or some of them. But they said that they implemented immediate measures to respond to that incident, and they are currently investigating the incident with the assistance of Dutch authorities.
The thing that jumped out at me about the International Criminal Court is they're going to get really serious about security by rushing their cloud deployment.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
Are you kidding? It's like, is that your first response, Oh man.
First
Oh, boy.
response is to dry out the hemorrhoids.
Oh, Jesus. No.
Why does this happen to me?
What does the International Criminal Court actually do? They have any actual jurisdiction? I saw that they like their last big landmark thing was indicting Putin for invading Ukraine. It doesn't seem like it actually did.
Yeah.
Well, they do. They have some.
It seems a little fluffy. It's kind of like, oh, we'll get you if you happen to be in a jurisdiction that we can get you.
Okay.
Yeah, if you're from the Central African Republic, they might get you.
I mean, maybe like it's a big question mark about what authority they have, but obviously you make for a tempting target to steal documents because if they can get, all the
Right.
sensitive information or the cases they're following up on. It reminds me of Blue Leaks. I don't know if you all remember, Blue Leaks happened about 2 years ago where someone hacked a central police department, but a national police department
Oh,
database. And it included a lot of documents, including people that the police found to be suspicious and were keeping tabs on. And so this seems similar. So if you got access to the ICC's documents, you could see who are they watching and is that you?
well, and I think one of the controversial things about the ICC over the years has been that neither the US or Russia accept its existence. So it's kind of like,
Yes. Yeah. So what you gonna do?
what you gonna do?
So from my perspective, this caught my eye for a couple reasons. One, I don't know if anybody's ever watched the show Blacklist, but this just kind of feels like something that would have happened in that show. So I thought that was funny. But more, directly, it was interesting to see that the Netherlands is the host country of the ICC. We went to RSA. I had the opportunity to visit the Dutch consulate and hear a lot about their cybersecurity strategy, and they take it very seriously. They have very heavy resources devoted to threat intelligence, devoted to cybersecurity, and they're very in touch with this kind of stuff. So very interesting to see what develops out of this. I think it only happened maybe 2 days ago. So very recent development, but something where I am going to reach out to my contacts over in the Netherlands and see if we can help at all. But very interesting.
Exactly.
So Connor, 100% agree. Show Blacklist is awesome.
Yes.
Phenomenal.
James
And agreed on their focus on cybersecurity. So it'll be interesting to see if anything comes of that. But 100% you're spot on with their focus there. I guess the implementation is part of the issue, right?
Yes.
But I think that at least the focus and the prosecution should follow through would be my guess.
I gotta say, this is probably a huge pain in the ass for the ICC.
Shut up.
I bet they're sitting really uncomfortably at this point, and they just need to lance it. Just
Yeah,
pop that problem away.
exactly.
This was
Just get it out of there.
Don't
Look,
you can't just sit on it.
no, you gotta take drastic action. Just remove the problem, no matter how painful it is. You just gotta pop that thing.
all right.
Oh yeah.
Out and about with this story.
I will say that I will say that is not doctor advice. So please, nobody that's not actually knowledgeable, like please do not follow Steve's advice. That's a really bad idea.
Look,
Yeah.
just it's a big balloon of problems, and you gotta pop them and get all the hackers out.
Get it out.
No matter how big your problems are,
Has something
you have
else-
to get rid of them, but please follow doctor's advice. This is not a medical channel.
I think
Oh,
this
man.
story has swollen too much.
Yeah. Oh my dear
Story
lord.
number 4. Thanks a lot.
Really,
for-
that last one was a story and a half.
Yeah, it was.
Thanks for your inputs, outputs, whatever. Please let me know if you see something bizarre
Yeah.
on the screen. But so the Microsoft story is kind of tied in together with Azure, and then also what we saw over with Xbox. I know these are two separate stories, but they're connected. So firstly, let's go and talk about Azure. And so turns out that there was an unsupervised S3 bucket or
Well,
something.
S3 is not Azure, so there's
It's the competitor.
Microsoft equivalent to S3.
Yes, so that was unsupervised, and that's how they were able to leak dozens of terabytes of sensitive data starting in July 2020, while contributing open source AI learning models to a public GitHub repository. I'm really confused and lost on the details on this one and how it kind of ties in with Xbox. So if you guys can tell me your thoughts around this, that would be really helpful.
So
I make one piece of commentary first before we go, if that's okay. What I think is really cool is this is a new source that we have pulled into Hack Notice. And we've been very, very diligent in pulling in all of their data from Bleeping Computer, and it's 2 of the 5 stories. So great source of data. And we've pulled them into Hack Notice and is providing value to our customers immediately as a result. So, Divya, for your question, the fact is, like, we are very diligent about any buckets that we have or any repositories of data that we have, that our policies are very explicit around who can access them and who can't. By default, all buckets or data repositories should be created as only read by for our instance, Hack Notice. If they're externally accessible, they have to be very carefully managed. And you have to be very cognizant about how that data is pushed outside. So this is one where it was just easy to say, hey, I'm going to do this public, and they got a bunch of public data out there, is my guess.
So that was a major problem with Amazon, specifically AWS, and it wasn't AWS's fault, but they, for a while there, they would just let any bucket be public, right? And now they have warnings and then warnings and click-throughs, and they're like, yes, I attest that I know what public means. It means public. But this is Microsoft, and we don't really know what sort of configuration they have or what sort of controls they have. This used to be a huge problem with Amazon, and it still is, but I think we're now seeing it with Microsoft. But this goes beyond just default settings. This was Microsoft setting up a public Microsoft bucket, filling it full of data massively, and then sharing it on GitHub. So that took several steps. Those were willful steps.
And it happened 3 years ago, and it was all internal employee data.
So the one thing I'm happy about with this article is to see something that was posted recently that refers to the service as Azure and not Entra ID. I like the name Azure a lot more than the new name of Entra or Entra ID.
Did they change the name?
Azure's name was changed to Entra ID.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that's dumb.
That's like
Well,
Entra
it's
News.
Azure. No, Connor. Azure AD got renamed to Entra ID, right?
But
Azure itself didn't get renamed.
Oh, is Azure still Azure and not Entra?
Azure still Azure. Azure AD got renamed to Entra ID.
Okay, so Azure itself isn't just Entra and then Entra ID. It's just okay. Maybe either
Probably
way.
because they're trying to disassociate themselves from AD.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
My mistake.
that's the one useful thing they have. So
Yeah.
let's get some distance.
Office 365 is pretty decent, right? Like Word still works.
Yes, moving on to story number 5. So kind of tied in with the whole Xbox scenario, right? So there's 2 articles that I would like to show you guys over here. One of them is Randy Meeks is really salty, first of all, about this whole Xbox situation. I feel like maybe his data got compromised. So he's saying the gigantic Xbox data leak has been the fault of, well, Microsoft itself. And if they wanted to blame somebody for the leak, they should have looked in the mirror, right? And then the FTC, the same like day, September 19, denies the blame for Xbox plans leaked in unredacted filing. And I would like to show you this piece of document where they kind of talk. I mean, this is the judge that posted the order related to the accidental publication of Microsoft documents. Microsoft provided the link on September 14th, and the court uploaded the exhibits to internet page established for this case. What do you guys have to say about this incident?
So this is just domino effect where Microsoft had a breach, and while uploading details about the breach, they had another breach. And it was a worse breach. So like it's just a calamity of comedy.
Go big or go home.
It's a comedy of calamity. I don't know which, but it's they had a breach and they said, okay, let's upload the documents, and then they breached themselves again through the upload.
Yeah, they tried to blame the court for that, but they provided the link, and then on top of that, it was a standard court proceeding to unredact those. They knew that those were eventually going to become public, and then they were up in arms.
And they didn't label them as confidential.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
So I'd like to blame the internet for all breaches. It's not the breach party's fault. It's
You're blaming the internet?
Yes. Yeah.
Just the collective internet.
Just the collective internet is at fault.
Yes. If the internet did not exist, we would not have breached.
Well, that's true.
His job.
Yeah, because before the internet, there weren't any breaches.
Yeah,
There were physical breaches.
Yeah, exactly.
still are.
Yeah.
But
There still are, you're correct. So
Regard-
I was curious. So I read this and I was a little bit curious how, because it was labeled Xbox, but is it related to the Activision deal, which is a huge like?
I don't think so. I think it was more about future plans.
Because that was announced one day ago that Britain is going to signal approval, so it just seemed very coincidental.
This was more about future plans and prototypes for the hardware.
Okay. Yeah, it was just curious. It came kind of at the same time.
You know what's
And the
crazy?
Activision deal again came privy, I want to say a day ago.
Do you think
About 28 hours ago.
Do you think Microsoft's playing like 3D chess? They're like,
Mhm.
Monopoly, we're too dumb to be a monopoly. We can't even keep ourselves from breaching ourselves. Please let this deal go through. We don't know what we're doing.
Oh, you never know. You never know.
I didn't even so Microsoft's buying Activision Blizzard, taking in Warcraft and all that. Wow.
Yeah.
And that was announced like 24 hours ago.
Well, the approval was.
Well, it's been under contention from a couple of governments too. So
Oh, it's been under scrutiny for 2 years.
I'm saying,
Yeah.
didn't that try to happen like 2 years, long time ago, and I thought it got squashed.
No, they just approved it in Britain
Oh,
like 24 hours ago. And then this story comes out. Again, I'm just curious. Like,
Governments don't ever do anything to Microsoft. Microsoft's an episode of Bourbon and this has been an episode of whiskey and what the fuck.
It's a lot,
Bye, guys.
everybody.
Bye.
hi everyone.